All right, did you
But
read it or not? You happy?
I can't even read it. I have my
Daniel, I can't.
glasses on for Christ's
Wow.
sakes. But I love that you're
Wait,
wearing
if
a
I
dad tax.
if I do like the glasses on the thing.
Okay, that helps. Super helpful, Ted. Ted, glad to see you. And I got to start with, I'm trying to add more protein, less carbs. And what do? I get the Chomps like beef stick. It's supposed to be super healthy, and
Yeah.
it's weird because I suddenly felt like sassy and entitled. Oh my God, it's made in Naples, Florida.
Oh, wow.
That's actually my part-time job. I actually stomp the beef.
The hollow buddy. And we all feel hollow sometimes.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. I'm Kristen Ziman, and I am here with my brilliant and bold co-host, Sylvia Moir. We are former police chiefs, and we're here to talk about the uncomfortable decisions that define leadership.
Yeah,
How's it going,
and
Sil?
it's going great. I loved your alliteration.
Thank you.
We all
Thank you very
learned
much.
every Hollow Bunny podcast follower knows the B and the B. That was an alliteration. I really like
Alliteration.
that, Kristen. I'm doing
Brilliant
great.
and bold. I'm doing
Mhm.
great too. I'm doing great. I'm on creatine. So do I look like buffer? I'm taking creatine.
Is buffer the proper tense of buffed? I mean,
Would it be more buff?
buffalicious. Let's just say
Buff.
buffalicious. I got great news to start this whole freaking shindig.
Oh, what? Hit
The great
me.
news is that one of our previous guests, one of our top rated guests, Chief of Napa Police Department, Jennifer Gonzalez, who is not a bed maker.
She doesn't make her bed.
I went to her house last night for
Okay.
a little visit, a little squeeze, a little check-in because she retired, and no shit. 2 beds,
Stop it.
both made.
No. Did you immediately leave the premises?
I gasped, I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, who are
Yeah.
you? You're an imposter." And then I didn't believe it was her. And then there was this whole thing around it. And then I said, I'm going to report out when we have our next podcast. So every Hollow Bunny podcast follower could know. I don't know. I think maybe she hired somebody.
Wait, do you think this is a retirement thing that now she has time to make the beds? I mean, or do you think she did that because you were coming over?
I think her better half did it because I was coming over.
I see. Okay. Yeah, we really need to get to the bottom of this. I want to have her back on for the next segment. And I want to talk about whether that was coerced, whether the bed making was coerced or if she was afraid of being shamed by you.
No one's afraid of being shamed by me. They just know there's big expectations. And then if you were with me and we were going to her house, they would have had to make it twice because they would have thought you'd unmake it in order to make it to your standards. And I just, there's all kinds of levels, but I just wanted to report out. Now, Kristen, this podcast episode is about this really important topic that you and I have been really chewing on the past couple weeks.
Yeah, chewing on like a beef stick.
Like a beef stick from Naples, Florida, high in protein, low in sugar. Get it, everyone, at your local Costco. So Kristen Ziman, my highly creatine, super testosterone pelleted co-host.
Yeah.
Tell everybody this little segment we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so this is the dilemma. So point of view, you're a leader, but you are a leader with formal authority. You have responsibility to shape the team, the organization.
Yep.
And as a leader, you have choices. You are given most of the time that autonomy to put people in positions. And that might be, offering people training or promoting them, hiring them, what have you. But let's say from this point of view, you have the authority. And let's say that you have two candidates, and one candidate is someone who challenges you and speaks up, perhaps disrupts a little bit. And the other one is, let's call them a comfortable pick. Someone we'll call loyal, someone who's maybe even a friend beyond work. There's a relationship there. And let's talk about why this decision is harder than it seems.
Oh boy. Well, I go back to kind of at its foundation. I don't think in this podcast segment we're going to be talking about our episode. We're going to be talking about eroding the traditional leadership pillars, right? We're not going to be talking about competencies and breaking those down. Perhaps we'll talk about those later. But let's talk about this piece. I think it boils down to what is comfortable and easy.
It's true. It's simple, right? That is the lowest hanging fruit. It's just comfortable, and we are designed for comfort, right?
Right. And isn't it easier when people agree with us?
Yeah. In fact, I looked up some research just to back this up, and it's called cognitive ease. Daniel Kahneman, he says that we default to the familiar because it's less mentally taxing. Just like you said, it's easier. It's easier to be around people who agree with us, that nod their heads, the yes people, right? That feels great.
Sure, it does. And this is the same Daniel Kahneman who wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow about our system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. And so what you're saying is he calls it cognitive ease. It's just simple. It's easy. You don't even have to really give it much energy.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying?
Yeah. It's easy. It's easy to be around people that you're familiar with. That's why we gravitate towards familiarity.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to throw out this bomb that literally just hit me in terms of recall. So at a previous police department, there were five lieutenants that were women that took this captain's test. And there was this very robust list. And we had an interaction. Well, okay, I'll just spill it. So I was one of the 5. We had this interaction with a decision maker about what really occurred in this promotional exam and the placement on the test and the selection, that the decision maker went with someone that was exactly as you described. Someone that went to the poker weekends, was known. They were in the club. They were in the in-group, and they spoke the kind of same language and did the same kind of stuff. Once we really traveled down this path to really examine with this decision maker why he went with this very known candidate, in essence, he exposed this very thing that you just hit us on the head with. And that was, he said, look, it's just, I don't have to interpret what he means. I just know what he means. I've known him for a long time, and it's just easier. And I just when you said that, thought of that moment and put myself back in that conference room with that decision maker. And I'm thinking, you just pow.
Yeah. We call it alignment, but it's actually intellectual laziness or insecurity in disguise. I have a similar story. I can't remember if I put this in my book or not, but it doesn't matter. I was a sergeant and I applied for the sergeant's training position, and it was between me and another male sergeant who is amazing. And I knew that we both had the credentials. He had more of a tactical trajectory where I was more project oriented, but nonetheless, we had done the same amount of training for our department. I trained on domestic violence. He trained on defensive tactics. And so so let's call this all things being equal. And this was what was told of me by my supervisor as well, is that you guys were neck and neck. So I get called into my commander's office, and he tells me that. He said, I've got 2 resumes here that all things being equal. And he said, but I'm just going to break it to you. I didn't choose you. And I said, okay, is there anything I could have done different? How did I fall short? And he said these words to me I will never forget. He said, I'm going to be honest with you. He said, I know the other guy. He's like, he comes to barbecues at my house. We've played on the baseball team together. He goes, I just know him. And so I'm more comfortable with him. And I said, okay, I understand. And I walked out of the office, and I don't really think that I kind of connected all the dots with how complex that statement was, because I don't have the luxury of being on the men's baseball team for the police department. So I haven't been invited to barbecues. If you invited me to a barbecue, I would say I'm probably a good time. I would ask for a veggie burger. No, that's a lie. So I'm a pain in the
Pretty
ass.
good
I would
with
be like,
a whip. Oh yeah.
I would be like, I don't eat meat. Okay, but all right. So maybe that's why. But I remember thinking is like what I am at a disadvantage because I'm not in a social circle, and so he chose the comfortable thing. And this topic just reminds me of that. And I guess the question that I'm asking, I was a leader, then I was a sergeant, but a first line supervisor. And so I wasn't the person in charge of, making big decisions. Now that you and I have both sat in that big chair, I see the allure of bringing someone into your space for whom you have loyalty, and I'm kind of, air quoting loyalty, and, cause that's a whole other podcast, what loyalty means.
Oh,
but
boy.
are we making these promotions for proximity and not performance? And I believe that teams that look and think alike plateau.
Oh, you're not going to get any argument from me. I think what you're talking about really swirls around a number of things. And what a compelling story you just told. It swirls around like in the circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It swirls around access. It swirls
Mm-hmm.
around kind of a knowing and familiarity. And I agree with you that it really effectually says we are going to just do and say the things the same way. So the plateau is very, very resonant. This reminds me of, Tim Collins' book some time ago, Good to Great, where he argued that you put the right person on the right seat in the bus.
Yeah.
And what I think we're saying in some of this, and we're kind of swirling around it, what we're saying in some of this is you can put the right person in the right seat on the bus. You, in your example, if listeners go back to the story, and we're talking about this story, you and this other guy had the right tools to be on the right seat in the bus. The difference between you is he had access perhaps to know what to pack and where they were going based on these conversations at a barbecue and the baseball team and some other things. And that is a really important access and proximity statement.
Yeah.
And so much of this goes back to who do we choose? How do we form our teams? And I think what we need to put a finer point on is teams need to have folks that are executors, that are doers, that are communicators, that are connectors with people, that are strategic thinkers. If you have a gap on a team, I know we're going to get baseball here, but if you have somebody that cannot play shortstop, who's not a shortstop, you have let's just say all outfielders, because most people can understand that. You have all outfielders, you're going to have some real gaps on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot here to consider.
Yeah.
And the leadership urging is what I'm hearing is the right decision may not always be the easy decision. And the right person may not be the easiest, most known choice.
Yeah. Well, I also want to lend some credence to the idea. Now, in my situation, all things being equal, what would I have done? And the truth is, all things being equal, The problem is that a lot of times all things aren't equal, and we can really point to, wow, that person got it and the more qualified person didn't, and they got it because of proximity, because of chemistry, because of loyalty, because of insert whatever here. But I actually was honest with myself and I thought, okay, all things being equal, resumes are the same, neck and neck. Would I pick the person who I'm more familiar with? And the answer is probably yes. So I also, I don't want to, I want to be very cautious of, having this armchair quarterback conversation, because I think that we all do it, and sometimes inadvertently, but it's like you and I have a chemistry, and we do think alike about a lot of things. You are so comfortable to me. And so I wonder if in that situation, I would choose you over someone I don't know very well, all things being equal. And so I do want to make sure that I'm kind of calling out myself and my blind spots, because it does feel good to be around someone that you know very well. I don't know. That's why I just want to make sure that we're not being so pointed and as if this hasn't happened to us at some time or another.
Well, I guess what we're trying to say, Kristen, is it's a flaw to not recognize it.
Yeah.
If you're the comfortable choice, because
Yeah.
I know your values, your traits and principles, and all of the leadership
Yeah.
pillars on which you stand,
Yeah.
and one of them being humility, and that your competencies fit the need of the project, of the strategy, of the team at that time, of course I'm going to go with you. I think what we're saying broadly is it is a flaw to consistently populate the team with what is familiar and
Yeah. That's true.
and I think
Yeah.
that's what we're saying, because of course, yeah, I'm gonna pick you because I know what I get. I know that you're gonna open the styrofoam and it's going to be very dramatic. And then when you're done with that meal, you're gonna try to put it in a garbage can where it doesn't fit, and then you're going to wrestle with
Mhm.
trying to put the styrofoam in the little hole, the big thing, and when you could just take off the top and put it in. It's going to be really dramatic and flavorful and really a lot. But I know that.
Our listeners have no idea what you're talking about, and that's a really
You
good thing,
do.
because you are just you are giving me a what for right now, and thank God there's no video of that thing actually happening.
I have
wait.
video. I'll show
Oh
it to
wait,
you.
yes, there is.
I
Okay, so
guess, come on. I mean,
okay, so let's talk about.
I know what to get with you. You know what to get with me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's
That's okay.
also acknowledge this. Okay. So here is what bold leaders actually do. Bold leaders
Here we go.
actually build a team of truth tellers.
Yep.
Now, I am not going to pretend that doesn't sometimes get exhausting, because I learned this, by the way, from my predecessor, the chief of police, Greg Thomas. He broke the mold. Because before him, you could, and I'm sure you've had this experience. We've gone through a lot of chiefs in our career, and you could tell, you knew whatever chief was in place, and an opening came up on the command staff, you knew who was getting promoted, because they were always going to promote their likeness and their cronies, right? Always. We always predicted that, until Greg Thomas came into tenure and he mixed up the entire thing and he promoted me. And
Why?
I'm not even kidding when I said, sir, why did you promote me?
Okay.
I had the least experience from the lieutenants from which he had to choose. And he said these words to me. He said, because I don't understand how you think, and I need that on my team. And I was like, oh, that's some ballsy stuff right there. Because we think so different. Like, here's a dude who was on the SWAT team, and he was, and I was, again, not that person. But he's like, you intrigue me because you make me think about things that I would never think about. And I remember, like, that is who I learned it from.
Yeah.
And so when I built my command staff, and I had the luxury of doing so, I brought people on, and let me tell you, it's exhausting to have people who don't agree with you, who are like, wait a minute, you haven't thought about this, or that idea was crazy. Or I had one guy, no matter, I'm such a visionary and he is a policy guy. So he'd be like, listen, you have to stay between the policy lines. And he would make me crazy. They made me better, but they made me crazy because we dissented so much. So I guess I want to acknowledge here that you're choosing the harder path by surrounding yourself with truth tellers.
Oh,
big time.
Speak about that, sister, because you are. Because it's like, just agree. Just once. Just agree. Right?
Yeah.
And the people that are the executors, they execute. They
Yeah.
execute. And when they have this real strength, like the Strengths Finder stuff, when they have that real strength of context, it's like, oh, dear God. You mean I have to explain the entire history to you
Yeah.
as to right now and how we're moving forward? What you said needs to be underlined, highlighted, put a pin in it. Hashtag it? Like, you're choosing.
Oh, hashtags are out. Hashtags are out now. Do you know that?
In? No.
So yeah, I learned, I was watching a TikTok reel and people were saying hashtags are out and tagging your location is in. I don't know if any influencers want to write in and let us know, but yeah, people spend so much time putting hashtags out, and I hear that is the trend of yesteryear.
Okay, so I
confirm.
just said something that's so last year. Sorry. So
and I'm your truth teller, so I called you on it.
Thank you so much.
You're
I'm better
welcome.
because of you. That must have been really hard. And
my
I
God.
applaud not only that you have a place of psychological security here to say that, but you had the courage to say it. So anyway, I mean, here's the thing. It's going to be harder. It's going to be harder. It depends on what you want. If you want to just keep going the same way, doing the same thing, don't make any waves, okay. The time right now not only really encourages us to promote people that are not only strategic thinkers in terms of internally, but they're strategic in terms of the social environment, that that their communication is a leadership. It is absolutely essential for their leadership competency, that they have acumen, not only in the strategy and tactics, but acumen in terms of the social environment, that they get things differently. I think what we are compelling people to do is challenge the motivation upon which their decisions are made. That's what we're saying. And if you're doing something comfortable because it's that guy or that girl and I know her and it's just easier, question yourself. And we're saying just pause in that. And if you are in a position as a decision maker to say that's good enough,
yeah. And think about that.
Yeah.
We're I don't want to unlock the door to the idea of comfort, but also when you think about, and I can look at you and think about how many hard things, how many challenging things that you have done, not only in your personal life, but in your career. And when you look back on the really hard things that you have done, wouldn't you say that they are often the most rewarding?
100%.
100%.
Wasn't it Roosevelt that said that?
Oh God, did I just quote? I thought I made that up.
I think you really swirled around it because
Why can't you let me have that? Why can't you just let me have that quote?
Oh, good call.
Because you know why? Because attribution is important.
So, and again, you took something that Roosevelt said to an experience when it's harder, it's more meaningful. You just made it contemporary and awesome. So please restate it and I'll put it on a poster or a little words on my wall. Go ahead.
Hashtag
shut up, fucker.
Eleanor.
Come on, make it you. Say that again because I think it's really important. And
because I was just thinking back on my career and I was like, what I just described in the command staff, we would have moments where our wonderful human, our admin, office manager would walk in because we were so loud and she was like, are you guys okay? Because we were fighting, like we were verbally, we were very loud, let's just say, and dissenting. She's like, are you guys okay? And we're like, yeah, we're just arguing. And when we walked out of that room, I remember like thinking, gosh, they have shown me all of my blind spots, but God, they're a pain in the ass. But it made me better. And it was harder because there were a lot of times where I had to go back and maybe revamp something because, of the dissenting viewpoints, because they threw spears and
Yes, but you can take it. It's a place of
Yeah.
psychological security and safety. So you establish a culture, a climate where they can do that. And Kristen, you're saying they can disagree without being disagreeable.
Right.
There's
And it's
part
not about you. It's not
of-
personal.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I do think that I genuinely think it is easier to be around people that agree with us, our politics. I mean, look at how divisive the world is right now. And quite frankly, I want to be around people that think like me. And so that's comfortable. But I also realize I learn more and I'm better having listened to opposition because, then I can show some empathy, but that's getting completely off topic. And I think that you said it was during our conversation, when we were chatting about this on the phone, and you said, why is good enough just good enough? And that is what inspired this whole, idea. And that's what we're settling for. Good enough.
Right. And it's just, I don't know. I think what we're urging people to do is have a consciousness around it. Remember at the Naval Postgraduate School, Dr. Chris Bellavita would say, what
He's my
evidence?
Messiah.
I
Moment
know.
of silence for Chris
I know.
Bellavita. He's my Messiah.
I'm in love with his brain. I'm in
I'm
love
going to
with
hump his brain.
intent.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry,
his
Professor
discern-
Bellavita.
So, yeah,
I'm
we're
so
in
sorry.
love with him.
I'm so sorry.
He used to say, what evidence do you have to support that claim?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that I say all the time because it's like, look, we have evidence to support our claim, right?
Yeah.
We see it all around, firsthand experiences, as firsthand witness to decisions that are made and some of the conversations that take place around folks that are selected because, I know him and it'll just be an easy transition. Well,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to be easy. I mean, leadership.
Wait.
Is it simple? Is it easy? Is it both?
No.
Is it neither? Is it one?
No.
None.
No, but this is why. Well, first of all, let me just interject here that Dr. Bellavita must have been kinder to you because how did you phrase it? He said, "What evidence do you have?" He looked at me and he said, "Who are you and why should I believe you?" I was like, boy, that's challenging.
So
That's challenging.
Yeah. And he also said, did he do this to you? I walked in, I looked at 16 books and I went for the quarter and I looked at him and I said, wow. And he said, it's only a lot of reading if you do it.
If you do it, that's right. And it's only a lot of reading if you do it. Oh my gosh. Thank you let's go memory lane. I very much appreciate that.
Okay.
So I think the bottom line here is that it's easy to fall into ease and to make the comfortable decision. It's easy. But I think what we need to this is a mirror moment for you leaders out there. Ask yourself, are you building for comfort or for progress? Your organization is going to suffer if you maintain the status quo. Are you choosing what is best for the system, or are you choosing what is easiest for you? Or are you the one who keeps getting chosen for comfort? And how does that feel? Because that maybe you don't even know that you are. I don't know. That's maybe your blind self though. But I think that the bottom line here is if you keep choosing what's best for you, you'll eventually become the bottleneck in a system that needed you to be the catalyst. That's how disruption is made, is challenging the status quo and bringing people in that challenge you, right?
For sure.
All right. Sure. Well, there's a call to action there. What is it? Call it to action, Sil.
This is a call to action of consciousness and introspection. So we both say stillness is key. I would encourage folks to sit in this and perhaps examine your own decision making. And I don't know, now I want to read this Daniel Kahneman book about cognitive ease.
I think it was in Thinking Fast and Slow.
Was it?
Is it? I think so. I don't think it's a separate book. Yeah.
1943, when Leon Festinger wrote about cognitive dissonance, he really changed the psychological landscape. And so a lot of us have examined that as we are leaders in this kind of pursuit of trying to examine how we show up and how we lead people. Now it's
Hell
time
yeah.
to pick up Daniel Kahneman. So thanks for
Yeah.
giving us that, Kristen. This has been super helpful for me, and I think really kicks me in the ass to consider
Yeah.
how I'm making decisions. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, bunnies, instead of asking, will this person make my life easier? Ask instead, will this person make the organization better? Right there. Just those are your choices, and that's your conscience. That's right there are your guardrails. Hashtag wisdom. Hashtag
No
I'll sign
hashtags.
off now. I'll sign off now.
No
Hashtag
hashtags.
outro.
Geolocation. Some kid.
Hey, listen, if you like us, if you like Syl and I, do you like us? I hope you really like us. If you like us, then follow us. Follow us, not like in real life, because that's weird. That's stalky, but
You,
follow us.
if you geolocate, they will follow you.
If you want to follow us, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and subscribe to the podcast. And if you don't like the podcast, then you have bad judgment. Hashtag bad judgment. Ted Madden produces this podcast, and the song you're about to hear was written and performed exclusively for us by my handsome and talented son, Jake Ziman, and his friends, Fabian and Zoe. Keep filling your own bunnies and keep adding substance to others. Hashtag bye.
Bye.
When you look inside, what do you find? Are you content to fall behind? When you lose your way and you've lost your why? Have courage and get ready to fight the hollow bunny. When the way ahead is covered in smoke and you're tired and you're scared and you're losing hope, you'll open your heart and your eyes to see a challenge and a question. Why not me? To fight the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. When the challenge ahead scares you to death, you tame the imposter inside instead. To change the world, you've got to start small. It takes a leader to say, I don't know it all. And I know I'm gonna fall, but I'll pick it up and come back stronger. Failing forward and moving onward, doing the hard thing and the right thing, forever fighting the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. You're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. Monster